Good morning, good afternoon, welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Pho Duc. Christian is the Chief Technology Officer of Smartenergy. Smartenergy, as many people know, is a major player in hydrogen and renewables, in developing projects, in financing projects, in running operating projects, so right across the value chain. So welcome, Christian. Thanks for taking the time
Thank
to
you.
speak
Thank
to me.
you.
Obviously, we're here in Italy. You've just been giving a presentation. Lots happening in Italy specifically. Lots happening in Europe. Maybe you could give us a little bit of an explanation to people that don't know Smartenergy, what it is that you're actually doing around
Yeah,
the space.
absolutely. Yeah, we are a private investment firm from Switzerland, and we have integrated along the whole value chain in the renewables and adding the hydrogen with it. Hydrogen for us is really kind of the kit putting everything together into a 1 + 1 makes more than 2 approach.
Yeah.
So the solar alone or the wind alone is one thing, but if you put them together and if you put them together with hydrogen, and there's more components, and I talked about like the critical components, batteries is one additional topic. This makes suddenly a higher value. So this is from an investment perspective a bit of the driving force on our side. We see a trend going to a high share of renewables. The target in EU going to beyond 50, 90% is a threshold, especially for additionality on hydrogen. So we want us going to see these levels, and suddenly the combination, the system integration is key. And in terms of market, we are focused in Europe. We also look beyond. And we have, in fact, also in Italy, a subsidiary. We're developing projects, renewable, but also hydrogen project in Italy. And we see a big potential for Italy. However, we see that given the opportunity in Italy, the speed we experienced yet so far here is not fitting well together. So there is a big opportunity to change the approach, do more on the wind side, and combine these.
Yeah. You mentioned some numbers in your presentations. Obviously, the Europe's looking at building, 10 million tons worth of domestic production of clean hydrogen. Very interesting numbers you presented around what that actually means in terms of investments. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And what do you think? I mean, at the moment, there's been a lot of talk, probably too much talk around subsidies and the role of governments to help create the market. But some of those amounts, I mean, you mentioned, I think, upwards of 600 to 700 billion euros in total to build the infrastructure necessary to supply $10 million. So on the subsidy side, people are talking the 3s and 4s and a billion. So how are you as a commercial player putting those two different numbers together?
Exactly. Yeah, I try to put this a little bit into relation that people make, how can I say, visualize a little bit. What are we talking about? And as you said, if we think about this kind of 10 million tons relating to 100 to 200 gigawatts, depending on the loading factor, big debate, and then getting to, on the one hand side, the electrolyzer investment, 200, 300 billion, then on the whole value chain, the transport, logistics. So we get to the 600, whatever, 700 billion. And now Hydrogen Bank, the first announcement was 3 billion euro. The question already was by year. Initially, we said by year was set, but in the meantime, people thinking about it and thinking, okay, how do I make it work for the whole volume? Already 9 billion per year is a discussion, but I think we are expecting then too much from the public funding side. I think the money needs to be directed into proving the cases, proving the ecosystem of individual projects, but we need to design our projects which somehow don't necessarily need all that public funding, because we experience also on our side the projects we have been slowed down by some of the projects we were dealing with public funding, and then the whole processes with it, the delays, waiting somehow took also a bit of momentum. So I'm not saying we need these for some of our lighthouse projects. It's super important, but we need to design now also, we meaning not just Smartenergy, the whole industry, being aware how can I make projects work potentially without or with less subsidy to reach the 2030 targets. It will not work to have the mindset that all these projects until 2030 will be subsidized. So there will and it's 7 years ago, away from now, and the project needs 3, 4, 5 years. So we are already in the phase we need to design projects which are independent from that.
Yeah, which are commercially, can stand on their own feet. So some of the projects you're involved in, they seem quite interesting. Different usage cases. The one in Valencia is around ceramics,
Right.
And now you're also working on a cement project. So could you give us a little bit of an idea of the sort of scope of your work and how that hydrogen is being used?
Exactly. I mean, the great opportunity first, and I showed some graphs I recently found on that, on the 100 million tons in the world which are used today on existing hydrogen consumption, which is the straightforward thing.
Yeah.
However, these are very much already in the hands of obviously the corresponding industries which have been doing this before. So for new developers or new applications, these are not so much accessible. These are in the hands of the gas, oil players mainly. So for us, really, as additional market now, it gets into these new applications. New applications, steel, ceramic, and as you said before, now it's to prove the application. So on the ceramic side, it's now down to the burners. So really showing the gas, for example, it's a high heat temperature, and the hydrogen which is mixed into the gas will now touch the ceramic itself.
Right.
So we need to care about, is the product which now touches hydrogen in the burning process the same or acceptable in color, in durability and everything to make it work. And this is a longer process. Testing actually has started. So our partners in the ceramic industries are already running tests now and preparing. And this is a fundamental effort to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of detail there, obviously, in terms of if it's beginning to affect products, and you to do the research and test those. And in cement is it interesting because there is obviously a very carbon-intensive process, and there's carbon there as well, which potentially, I guess, could be useful.
Yes. So the cement is a double game. I say in two ways. The first thing, there is the heat process where you can decarbonize by hydrogen, but second, there is obviously the process where CO2 is released by the process itself. And now there is a nice opportunity with hydrogen. I always say hydrogen is very versatile, and in this case, you can combine the CO2 with the hydrogen, and then make with that methanol, methane, or e-fuels, and suddenly you have it's a more reuse doing that, because we know to be fully green we need to have biogenic CO2. However, a reuse is already a very important factor of decarbonization already. So independent from the certification and the rating and how you can how can I say, have the benefits of decarbonization on that not fully green approach, still it's a very valuable approach because it also gets this industry running. And so
to reuse first and then potentially move to biogenic to prove that kind of new usage case.
Exactly, it makes a lot of sense, and the scale is impressive because the amount of CO2 which is then available is exactly the size we're looking for in the decarbonization for example, mobility with the sustainable aviation fuels, or with the RFNBOs in general, which can go into various applications. So this is a big opportunity. We're working in Portugal on a project for that, and it's exciting.
Excellent. And on the Refuel EU, we've seen again regulation, which again is helping pull the market. So there's some specificity there around the e-fuels in terms of aviation. I saw that. I mean, that must be good news for the industry.
This AFIR regulation really was important that it becomes written and also becomes mandatory and becomes enforced. There is a certain level which is then also purely reserved to RFNBO, so the non-biological 1% only, but the other one is I think 5.7 if I was right percent, which is quite a volume. I mean, I always have this discussion in many events when we think about what role will hydrogen play and what role will these fuels play. And in the mind of most people, it's always the electricity mainly, which obviously I say electrification is the best thing, but it's today just 20% of the total energy demand. So meaning the hydrogen plays exactly also the other 80%. And with that, the volume is really impressive. And actually the prediction right now is in terms of going to industry, going to mobility, going to the SAF, going to the FNBOs in general, up around 20% of our energy demand may then run with hydrogen.
Yeah.
And this is as much as we have on electricity today.
Yeah.
So it's quite a market. So,
yeah, I mean, there could be an E flip, so we go from a 20% electron and 80% molecule market to an 80% electron and a 20% molecule market, and that molecule will be based around hydrogen and its derivatives. So
yeah, roughly yes. There's obviously the bio in between as well, etc.
And there's going to be an arms race between the sort of technology platforms and the best route to decarbonization.
Exactly.
So that sounds like a
exactly. I mean, and being in Italy, by the way, just to mention that as well, this potential specifically in Italy, how this is seen, and it was a question in the panel right now. I see Italy has a very, very good opportunity in terms of wind, solar, and doing hydrogen projects. A hot topic is the offshore wind.
Yeah.
And I just came back from a Wind Europe event in Copenhagen last week and got my brain refreshed.
Yeah.
And I must really say that I realized that the offshore wind topic is a bit similar as the hydrogen topic in terms of bankability, in terms of the initial issues on technology. And now we are a big hope right now was to combine this offshore wind with hydrogen. So we are putting actually two difficult things together, difficult in terms of realization, bankability, financing. On the other hand, sometimes putting these two together can even how can I say, make a better match than just putting the electricity in the grid, because then we also have the grid complexity, which we know is a big bottleneck. So somehow I'm not seeing that, although both individually are difficult, putting those two together can maybe even make a case, especially if you think big, if you think large scale, this can de-risk actually project which individually would be difficult. So I see an opportunity also for Italy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and especially with potentially floating wind, potentially electrolysis offshore on platforms or islands, or there is a big potential there for things to work quicker if you try and minimize, I guess, the electrical part. So fascinating space, fascinating to talk with you again, Christian. Thanks a lot for your support. It's great to see Smartenergy out there pioneering, as usual, doing great work. So
thank you.
Thanks for your support, and we look forward to seeing Smartenergy build projects, and indeed.
No, we're enjoying working with you, and if you remember back when we kind of started together. How this developed on the hydrogen, how actually everybody is now at a knowledge level which is 3 years ago was not there, and it's a great job you did. So congratulations as well.
Thank you. We did our part, and thank you. Thanks a lot for your support.